Forgiveness is the act of admitting we are like other people. Christina Baldwin. Welcome to the Time to Forgive podcast. Each episode is about one subject, forgiveness. When we can forgive others, forgive ourselves, and be forgiven, we'll be one step closer to true peace. It may be a challenge, but with an open mind and heart, it's possible. I'm your host, Portia West. Let's begin. Hello, and thanks for joining us. Forgiveness is indeed a journey that can take place in stages or steps. Today, we'll look at one concept that can be used to get there. Then we'll speak with a playwright whose latest project has several themes, including forgiveness. Letricia Dixon is a child welfare qualified mental health counselor who sees her job as ministry. Letricia is a passionate teacher and has been a faithful servant member of her church for nearly 30 years. She is a mother of one beautiful daughter and two adorable grandsons. Hi, Letricia Dixon. Thank you for being on the Time to Forgive podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Letricia, there are several established steps that one can take to achieve forgiveness. Can you please tell us what they are?
Well, in my research, different people have different ideas about that. But one struck me, which was outlined in a sermon by Lars Anderson, a pastor elder of Orchard Bible Church in Centennial, Colorado. And his 4 steps that he outlined was re-examination, resolution, reconciliation, and restoration.
Okay. Now, did you want to elaborate on that or on those 4 topics and any of those that you want to elaborate? Or does the breakdown feel like a realistic way of dissecting the work that needs to be done to start towards forgiveness?
Actually, the very first step, the re-examination step, I found to be like, I won't say most important, but I think it carries the most weight. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I'll explain.
Okay.
The examination stage is where you explore the severity and impact of the offense. So we're talking about one who's looking to forgive, not looking to be forgiven. Okay. So some things are just worthy to be overlooked, right? And so we used to thought about the scripture in Proverbs 19:11. It says, the discretion of a man deferreth his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression. So things just needs the application of compassion, mercy, love, which covers a multitude of sins, according to 1 Peter 4:8 and Luke 15:11-32, which is the story of the prodigal son. So especially when we consider ourselves, because the scripture does tells us to, when we're thinking about others, and the way we interact with each other, we should really be considering ourselves, because all of us have come short of the glory of God. Okay. So I think this is a place where I can really add my own testimony.
Okay.
I had a situation recently where someone, said something to me that at first it kind of touched the wrong button.
Right.
And I decided, let me just, I know, I was trying to remember what it was. So I'm going to be full disclosure, okay? Because I think that's what we need today. People need to hear the real story.
I agree.
I was at a funeral, and my ex-husband was the person who was giving the eulogy. And it was his sister who had passed, and he was giving accolades to his sister and her husband for being married for 38 years.
Okay.
And he followed that with saying, that's a long time because a lot of marriages don't last that long. And then he said, because mine didn't. Now I'm sitting
Is that the part that stung? Okay.
in the audience. Well, the part that really stung was the fact that I'm at the church he grew up at and among his family members.
Okay.
Everybody laughed.
Okay. Okay.
And it was like, whoa. I was like, wow. And I
You weren't laughing though, were you?
no,
No. No.
absolutely not.
I know.
People behind me, they were whispering. And I just felt like God thought I had gotten past this. I thought that all of these negative and, feelings that I had felt over the years were gone. But it's like they all came right back to the surface.
Mm.
So I left the service and, I mulled over it and thought about it. You know how things work in your mind when you know, too much activity. But I came to the conclusion, okay, I don't think, now if he did, that's his thing, but I don't think he woke up that morning and said, I'm going to embarrass Letricia.
True.
And that broke that for me.
Okay.
It was like, no, I mean, I don't think he, even though we not together, I don't think he really sat there and say, I'm gonna hurt her. This is my opportunity. And so I just let it go. And I figured, if, like I said, it's not my job to figure out whether he was trying to hurt me or not. But I can't imagine him, putting in his notes.
You literally just went through those 4 steps that you mentioned. You took a step back, you re-examined that situation, and
Yeah,
you knew that there's going to be a resolution. He didn't mean to do that. And, so yeah, you literally walk through all of those and then come to that peaceful restoration without their having, and that's actually all in your head. You didn't have to go up to him and say, I forgive you, because it may have been unintentional. You were in your feelings, but that's the same process. I love that. Yeah, and then you can be at peace the rest of the day.
absolutely. And
Great testimony.
I mean, I didn't even know about these 4 steps when I did that.
Okay.
And
Okay,
no,
so there's some value to it's inherently in there somewhere, because it's kind of what you really just did, though. I love that, though.
so when I saw this, and I was like, wow, this is for real. This is awesome. And I just felt like, wow, you're growing, which is what we're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that leads to the next question I had. I was going to ask your thoughts about forgiveness from the perspective of a parent or a grandparent. It's different. We as adults, one-on-one with the spouses or ex-spouses, but what do you think, or what do you have a perspective as that, as from a parent or a grandparent's perspective in forgiving
Who's
or being able to teach others about forgiveness?
who needs to forgive a child?
Either or teaching children on how to forgive. We live in a society now there where kids figure eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. And
Yeah,
that's what our culture tells them to do. But the onus is on us adults, especially Christians, to teach them about forgiveness. So have you been in that position as a parent or a grandparent where having to reiterate little lessons about forgiveness to a child? I mean,
I think that lesson comes a lot through mirroring, which is
okay.
lessons that we have to teach our children and our grandchildren. We have to show them how to do it.
Hmm.
If I'm not forgiving, but I'm telling you to forgive, the lesson is missed. I mean, because you see me doing one thing and you hear me saying another. Which one you think is gonna make a bigger impact?
Yeah, actions do speak louder than words. Well stated. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a lecture. They're learning by watching.
Absolutely. But if it comes to that place where, when they get older, because we'll see, my grandchildren are very small, 2 and 9 months. So, they're not placed yet. My daughter, who actually was in the midst of this testimony that I just gave, of course, she was watching me.
Mm-hmm.
She told me, and she's 30.
So
Notice.
did she? So did she think you were? How did she think you were going to react, or did she just like, okay, mom's going to be able to be good with this, or is she going to snap? So,
She didn't know because,
oh.
yesterday I probably would have snapped.
We caught you on a good day. The Lord had you in church. But that moment of reflection, we all need to take that re-examination before you respond, whether you choose to forgive or not. That moment of reflection and looking at the situation for as the most valid point you said was like, he did not wake up to go write this in his notes to embarrass her today.
Right.
So that moment of revelation is the first step in that forgiveness.
I think, and I'm just saying, I think it's so important to even have that step, So if you can just just sit down after, once you become calm and just think about it, you know, was that person, was that something that they were being, mean to you about? Was that something that they said to enhance what they were saying, didn't know that they were going to get the response that they were going? I mean, I don't know, but I'm at peace. I'm okay with it.
And that was all internal. You didn't have to get confrontational with him. Why did you do this? And how come you? That saved a whole lot of drama that didn't need to happen that day. So,
Absolutely. And so so explore the severity and the impact of the offense. Yeah, people laughed. Who cares?
they don't even remember it today.
Maybe, maybe not, but they don't know my story. You know? So
but but God is in your story. You have a forgiving spirit. Is there anything else you would want to share with the listeners of the podcast on your perspective and from where you're from what you do for a living? How does this fall into how you live your life and what you do for work?
well, I am a mental health counselor and I work with teenage mothers
Okay.
who are in DCFS care. So many of them have complex trauma that they're dealing with. Um, and we do talk about forgiveness, but sometimes it's way past that for them. It's you have to, it's like peeling an onion. You got to get to that layer. There's a whole lot of other layers before you can even get there. It's,
Yeah, because some of them, by the time they've gotten into the system for whatever reason, there was a road, the gap, and things on top of things that got them to that point. Yeah, I agree. It takes a while. You should work in social services. Yeah, just to even get to the thought of trying to forgive someone, something. You don't know what happened, especially teenagers in their life before they, got into in front of you.
yeah,
But step by step, layer by layer, it's possible.
absolutely. But because I've been there only 9 months now, so we're still working on some of those surface things. Trying to get past that first level or that second level, and but I see progress in some of the girls. Some of the girls still struggling. So each girl is different. So you have to peel the layers differently at a different time. But to think about why we need to forgive and how it affects our mental health is because now your mind is so focused on that thing, which sometimes bring not just depression, anxiety, but heart disease, high blood pressure. So this unforgiveness that we hold, because if we hold it right here in our chest.
Yeah, the emotional can transfer to physical very easily. That's exactly what stress does. It finds a part of your body to attack. So stress, anxiety, which you just said are pent up emotions when people don't want to forgive. If
Mm-hmm.
you're in a state of denial and angry at someone all the time, that's just negative energy in your body that has to release itself. And unfortunately, for some people, it translates into illness, sickness, like you said, heart disease. Women, especially Black women, we're struggling to having a day-to-day life without trauma. So but many have experienced trauma, and then getting to that point of forgiveness is a necessity in order to get to the point of peace. for your own good mental health.
Absolutely. And when we hold grudges, we're living in the past.
Not the future.
We can't even go forward because the past is still on our hearts, on our backs, in our minds. And listen, it cuts off from your future. It causes you to not be able to live the abundant life that was intended for us to live.
Yeah, life more abundantly. And if you're constantly looking behind you, you can't stay focused on where you're supposed to go forward. The old saying is that the rear view mirror in your car is smaller than the windshield for a reason. You're supposed to stay focused on what's important in front of you, not what's behind you all the time.
Exactly.
On My Terms is a powerful faith-based play that explores grief, love, and forgiveness. Here's a snippet from the upcoming production in Chicago.
Hey, let's get ready to come out to the theater. Come check out On My Terms.
This is the grief support group for loved ones who are violently killed by law enforcement.
The cops kept just screaming at him, get out of the car. And Jay was looking at them like, not until you tell me what I did.
Well, they messed with the wrong one. I'm gonna get justice by any means necessary on my terms.
At Definition Theater, October 10th, October 11th, October 17th, October 18th at 7 o'clock p.m. Definition Theater, 1160 East 55th Street in Chicago. For tickets, visit www.wadeproductionsllc.com. Come on out and play about loss, redemption, and forgiveness. You won't regret it. Come on out. See you there.
Lenora Brown-Rodriguez is the CEO of Wade Productions, LLC. She is a longtime member of SAG-AFTRA and has been writing stage plays, feature films, and novels for over 30 years. On My Terms, opening soon in Chicago, is the 5th stage play she's written, produced, and directed. Lenora holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in theater from Columbia College, Chicago, and she's the proud mother of 2 adult sons. Wanted to welcome you and get your take on a few things about your play, as well as being a faith-based creator, how you feel about forgiveness. Okay?
Okay. No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is my first of hopefully many podcasts to come.
Good, thank you. And we're glad to have you. And I'm going to check my notes right here and make sure, because I had some very specific questions. I found the play rather interesting, having read the script. So the first thing I wanted to ask is, On My Terms, On My Own Terms is a multi-layered, very beautiful written play, by the way. What was your inspiration? I mean, because it's not just about grief, it's not just about love, it's not just about forgiveness. All of that's layered into a really beautiful story. What was the inspiration?
Right. And just so we have it clear, it's on my terms.
Oh, thank you. On My Terms. On
Absolutely.
My terms. I put my own terms, my bad. On my terms.
No problem at all. So basically, I wanted to write a story that had a lot to do with something that was relatable, something that was pretty much uplifting, and that had the components of redemption and forgiveness. I really got tired of seeing news stories about police and wrongful deaths and police brutality and people dying at the hands of police officers out here. And that part was kind of disheartening and sad to hear day after day in and day out. So I wanted to just focus on this story in a way that was unique and different, and that had different components where we pretty much saw things from a lot of different perspectives and not just one, because ultimately police officers are failing at protecting and serving.
So you are primarily a creator of faith-based productions. Is there a scripture that you lean towards as you create your stories, your plays, your art? You have a favorite
Okay.
scripture?
Well, I do, but I really hadn't thought about it so much from that perspective until you mentioned it to me, and I had to kind of do some deep diving and some digging just to figure out which biblical scripture could be relatable to me. And the one I came up with was 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10, which ultimately says, each of you use whatever gifts that God has given you and use those gifts to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in whatever form you want, whether ultimately it's music, theater, film, whatever medium you want it to be, and do that. And so I guess in my particular position, I have chosen to write, produce, direct. I was an actress for many years. I enjoyed performing in front of the camera. Now that I'm behind the scenes, I actually have to admit I like it even more so than I did being in front of the camera.
Awesome. You get to use your gifts in many ways and spread the
Right.
message. Again, that core theme of redemption and forgiveness. Do you have a personal story you'd like to share about a testimony of sorts about getting to the point of forgiveness or why forgiveness is good for you, has been good for you?
Right. This one is a very personal testimony in terms of forgiveness, in that I actually had to forgive both of my parents.
That's interesting.
And I'll say why. In my dad's case, my dad was very, very strict on his children. Myself being the oldest, I'm the oldest of four. He was very strict on us, and his form of punishment was corporal punishment, which was kind of frowned upon by a lot of people. I mean, growing up, I was beat with an extension cord and things of that nature. Of course, my own kids, they know nothing of that. My little sister, who is the youngest, I'm 15 years older than she is. She didn't have to grow up encountering that, but my other two siblings, we were the oldest, so we did. And it was unfortunate, but what I had to learn to do was to let go and forgive, because my dad did not grow up with a father in the home. His mother took care of maybe upwards of 10 children,
Wow.
and or she raised upwards of 10 children. And so I had to realize that my dad didn't have anyone in his life who could be a model for him
Good. Yeah.
and who could set the tone in terms of what being a father was all about. I love him to this day, to death. He's no longer with us. And getting to my mom, I had to forgive my mom because my mom cared for everybody. She looked out and cared for everybody. One of the most richest people that I ever have met in my life. But she did not care for her own health and her own herself. She ignored warning signs that she was given in terms of her body and this and that, which ultimately turned into her having ovarian cancer.
Mm.
And we lost her at a very tender age of 59. And so I had to forgive her, but I was angry because I would always question, why didn't you take care of yourself? And things of that nature. So I I basically have come a long way in my own personal testimony and forgiveness story. And while those are unique stories, but that was the only thing that I could really think of that tied in and hit home with me.
You know what? Yeah, that might not be as unique as you think. A lot of, unfortunately, Black families have that where the father didn't have an example of a father, of how to be a father in the home. And they're learning as they are parenting. But this is
Absolutely.
actual, the grief part is a great segue actually back to the topic of your play. Your play is set in a support group a grief support group for people who have lost loved ones to gun violence. So a part of that, and there is forgiveness was embedded in the story, and I won't tell the end of the story because it's great.
Oh,
But
okay.
what's part of it is I had a question about forgiving people after death, which you just described. That was, I mean, because that's not an easy broom to jump over. You know, they're
Right.
gone, you haven't had that conversation, or maybe the fact that you need to forgive them or you didn't receive forgiveness from them before they left. Those become very difficult topics to deal with. Do you feel, how was that for you to have to forgive someone post mortem?
Right.
Where did you have to
So,
go for that? Is that a spiritual thing, emotional thing, or just growth as a human?
right. I believe there were a lot of different components of different variables at play, but the main thing was love for humanity, and also showing growth as 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 a race of people out here, showing growth, and just hmm there's so many components there. It's a little bit of a tough question,
It
but
is, yeah.
I think the main thing I would have to say is the fact that there were just it was just primarily about love, humanity, and growth,
I
essentially.
agree. I agree.
Right.
This has been wonderful. For me, I've had my story of forgiveness is for the sense of peace. I've had to forgive people that I didn't want to forgive, or the world would say, why would you forgive them again and again and again? It's for my peace of mind.
Oh,
To
for
release
sure.
that, to release the stress of being angry with somebody or having that just in the back of my head, that darkness. So I try to move forward with that spirit of forgiveness and grace. We all have a hard day. You know, somebody might not know that they offended you or that they did something wrong to you as a child. So give honoring grace and myself, my own self-care, to your point about your mother wondering about or having signs of something of stress and effect impacting your health. A part of that can be alleviated if you forgive, give grace, and move on. So
For sure.
I love your
Sure.
story. Thank you for sharing your testimony. Please give me a little bit more details about the dates of the play, the location. We want to help you spread the word.
Absolutely. And thank you so much again, you and Vera, both for having me. I The name of the play is On My Terms,
Awesome.
and it's going to run from Friday, October 10th, Friday, October 17th, and Saturdays, October 11th and October 18th at the Definition Theater, which is 1160 East 55th Street, right in Hyde Park, Chicago, Illinois.
Mhm.
So it's as centrally located as you can possibly get. People can get there from coming from the south suburbs, coming from west side, east side, north side. So I just wanted someplace centrally located. And I also wanted a theater that was more of an intimate setting. This theater has a real nice intimate setting associated with it. And when you actually see the play, you'll know why I chose this particular venue.
Awesome. It's a small venue, so those tickets are going to go fast. But thank you. It's relevant in this day and time, and appreciate the faith-based aspect of your work and hope to do more work with you. Thank you again.
Oh, absolutely. You're welcome. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, that's the end of our second episode. Thanks again to Letricia Dixon and Lenora Brown-Rodriguez for their participation, and you for being with us. Until next time, remember to forgive as you have been forgiven.